Hello, all, and welcome. So, as the title of this video suggests, I'm going to be talking about the concept of a common good and if the legacies of people, specifically those who are admired in history and have statues in town squares, fall into this category. And I'm going to be using the classic Simpsons episode, Lisa the Iconoclast, Season 7, Episode 16. So, before I begin, I encourage all viewing to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. So let's jump in. Alright, so before analysis can be done, I think it's important to establish some definitions so that we're all on the same page. What is an iconoclast? It is a person who attacks cherished beliefs or institutions, a destroyer of images used in religious worship. What is a common good? It is that which benefits society as a whole. The idea of the common good has pointed toward the possibility that certain goods can be achieved only through citizenship, collective action, and active participation in the public realm of politics and public service. Examples of common goods can be thought of as an affordable public healthcare system, an effective system of public safety and security, peace among nations of the world, a just legal and political system, an unpolluted natural environment, and a flourishing ecosystem. And now I think it's a good time to do a recap on this episode, Lisa the Iconoclast. This is just a quick synopsis that I got from Wikipedia. All right. So, the episode begins as Springfield celebrates its bicentennial. Miss Hoover assigns Lisa's second grade class essays on Jebediah Springfield, the town's father. Meanwhile, Mayor Quimby proclaims Homer the town crier during tryouts for historical figures in the town's upcoming celebration. Because his crying is better than Ned Flanders, Homer seizes Ned's heirloom hat and bell as props. Lisa visits the town's historical society to research Jebediah's life. She meets the antiquarian curator who gives her access to Jebediah's possessions. While playing his fife, she discovers his confession and his secret past as a pirate known as Hans Sprungfell until 1796. After trying to kill George Washington, he wrote his confession on the back of Washington's portrait and hid it in the fife, thinking that the half-wits of Springfield would never find it. Lisa tries to convince the town her claims are true, but is met with disbelief and outright hostility. When she shows the confession to Hollis Hulbert, the museum curator, he dismisses it as an obvious forgery. Miss Hoover gives Lisa an F for her essay, which she derives as a dead white male bashing by a PC thug. Lisa conducts more independent research on Jebediah and discovers more secrets in that he had a prosthetic silver tongue. She persuades the municipal government to exhume his body to search for it. When the coffin is opened, his skeleton contains no silver tongue. Exasperated at Lisa's meddling of history, Quimby strips Homer of his crying outfit and duties. After seeing the incomplete portrait of George Washington in her classroom, Lisa realizes the piece of paper containing the confession is the bottom half of the portrait. She confronts Hobart, who admits that he stole the silver tongue and hid it in the museum in order to protect his career in the myth of Jebediah. After realizing that it is wrong to idealize and celebrate a pirate, Lisa and Hollis decide to reveal the true story of Jebediah's life. As Lisa is about to share the truth with parading townspeople, a sniper takes aim, but is told to wait and see what she has to say. She realizes that Jebediah's myth inspires the town, inspires them, and decides to keep the truth a secret. As a proud Homer watches her, he notices Ned in the parade acting as the town crier again. Irate, he pushes Ned out of the parade to take his place and allows Lisa to ring Ned's bell while sitting on his shoulder. Alright, so I think that after reading the synopsis, you can see that the myth, the false legacy of Jebediah Springfield, provides a type of anchor, a foundation that all of Springfield can rally around. And I think that's why the definition of a common good thoroughly applies here. Everyone in Springfield wants to believe in Jebediah. In fact, there's a specific scene in this episode where Lisa tells Marge, who's usually the cool and calm, collected member of the family, about her concerns about Jebediah, and she lashes out at her, unequivocal in her support for the town's founder. Even in this scene, you have a situation where a sniper rifle is even pointed at Lisa, waiting to see what she says when she's on that stage. But I think that in Lisa's eyes, you can see that the hostility does not rattle her. She presses on, and I think that the reason she stops is because I think in that moment she then sees how important Jebediah and his legacy truly is to the town. It brings everyone together. Characters who you would normally not see together are standing side by side. There exists a type of warmth in that, an embrace, and I think that for her, Lisa believes that a lie is better than the truth, especially if it can unite this usually fractured town in this type of way. Now, with that being said, I think that there are a couple of questions still to explore. The first goes back to the common good, and it asks the question: who gets to decide what that is? Lisa's decision of not telling the truth about Jebediah Springfield is understandable, but she is an 8-year old girl. She's not an elected official. She's not a historian. She's not even an adult. Is it really okay for her to have such a big decision on the town? So I think to explore this further, I wanted to read a passage from an online EDU article published by Santa Clara University speaking about the common good, written by Claire Andre and Manuel Velasquez. It reads: the very idea of a common good is inconsistent with a pluralistic society like ours. Different people have different ideas about what is worthwhile or what constitutes the good life for human beings. Differences that have increased during the last few decades as the voices of more and more previously silenced groups such as women and minorities have been heard. Given these differences, some people urge it will be impossible for us to agree on what particular kind of social systems, institutions, and environment we all pitch into support. And even if we agree upon what we all valued, we would certainly disagree about the relative value about the relative values things have for us. While it may agree, for example, that an affordable healthcare system, a healthy educational system, and a clean environment are all parts of the common good, some will say more should be invested in health and education, while others will favor directing resources to the environment over both health and education. Such disagreements are bound to undercut our ability to invoke a sustained and widespread commitment to the common good. In the face of such pluralism, efforts to bring about the common good can only lead to adopting or promoting the views of some while excluding others, violating the principle of treating people equally. Moreover, such efforts would force everyone to support a specific notion of the common good, violating the freedoms of those who do not share in that goal, and, and, and inevitably leading to parentalism, imposing one's group's preference over the on others, tyranny, and oppression. And I think this passage also speaks to another prominent character in this episode, the museum curator, voiced by Donald Sutherland, specifically as it concerns to the aspect of parentalism. Here was a man who loved Jebediah, respected him, and was willing to sabotage Lisa until she figured out the truth. How do you come to an adequate conclusion when dealing with an individual who is so invested in somebody that they're willing to lie to cover it up? When talking about historical figures, we're not just talking about just any old names. We're talking about individuals who encompass so much, from streets named after them, school buildings, institutions. All you have to do is just look outside to see how the real world and how many landmarks are just covered with all of these famous names. And going back to The Simpsons, how can you not make the argument that Jebediah Springfield isn't the only good thing that this town actually has going for itself? And of course, this leads us to probably the most important question of this video, and that is, was Lisa right? And since seeing this episode a couple weeks ago, I've been trying to look at it from multiple angles to get a correct answer. And from my perspective, I would have to say no. And the reason I say this is because it reminds me of an expression that I heard not too long ago. It reads, "He who chooses to look away from conflict to live in disgrace will someday end up embroiled in both." And of course, we're not talking about a literal conflict, a literal war. But I think that by Lisa by Lisa attempting to turn away from the truth, she's trying to avoid a situation that avoids intense conversations. And I think that ultimately, if it's revealed that you knew the truth and it comes out later and you chose not to reveal it, I don't think people will look at you kindly. And again, I think this goes back to the argument about the common good revolving around parentalism. The simple truth is that while the town of Springfield can be a chaotic place at times, they're not children. And I think that if you're honest about debating the truth, then you need to actually debate the whole truth, good and bad. Part of being an adult, part of being a critical thinker is hearing uncomfortable truths and having conversations about it. It's about dealing with the fact that this world we live in was built by humans, and as humans, we are not perfect. And I think that Lisa, for all of her, for all of her earnestness, I think that when I look at this episode, I think that she's running away because I think that she is so enamored with the lie, how much it brings out to town, that I think that she believes that this is a better alternative. But I think that as people, we need to be willing to have these debates, have these conversations. It's how we grow as a society. So I think that again, like, if we're going to debate the truth, then have a debate on the truth and not just on what you want the truth to actually be. So that concludes my video presentation. I thank you all for stopping by, and I hope that you enjoyed it and found it interesting. I encourage all of you to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any suggestions about videos that you want me to do next, or if you found that you disagree with something I made in the video, then feel free to post below. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys later.